to say an information. Those people who is joining at the front, okay, before me, I think some people are joining. Okay, that is not an issue. And if the recording is getting stored into your Google Drive, please share that particular video, okay, video lecture, or at least enable the download permission. It will be like commenter. Okay, you need to go to the settings, enable and change it as a commenter. Okay, only then all others can download that particular video for their personal use. Okay, it can store it in anybody's drive, no problem. Either you make or you give permission, okay, as an editor to me, or what you do, if it is in your drive, what you do, simply you change the permission as commenter. If it has been changed as a commenter, whoever's need, they can download from the particular drive. Okay, you do any one thing. Okay, so that will be helpful for others also, not only for today's class, for yesterday's class and the previous classes. If it is stored in somebody's drive, you kindly do all the settings whichever I said you. Okay, so now we will move on to our today's class. So before we start our today's content, I would like to just recollect what we discussed by yesterday's class. So in yesterday's class, we were learning managing the data using SQLite database. Okay, so this is the title which we are discussing by yesterday's class, and this is not a new topic. It is a continuity of the last week's class. So in the last week class, we were discussing regarding the internal storage, external storage. All these we have discussed, and in continuing, and previous to that, we were also discussing regarding the shared preferences. All these are a continuity. Okay, it is not something new. Okay, all these are continuous title. Okay, consequent titles. All these are. Okay, what is the thing is, you need to know what is the difference between the shared preferences, internal storage, external storage, and managing the data in a SQLite databases. Okay, depending upon the requirement, you are going to design your application. Okay, anyhow, when we say it is an application, it is going to send and receive some data. So when you are going to send and receive some data, obviously we need to have some storage. Okay, and that storage can be different types based upon the sensitiveness of the data. If your data is going to be more sensitive, you will be using shared preferences. And if this data is going to be much relevant to your application, you will be using the internal storage. Okay, if data is not much relevant to your application, you can store it into the external storage. Okay, and if your data is massive, okay, if your data is massive, okay, for that what we can do, we can store it in an internal database like SQL database, which is already available or embedded into the Android. Okay, so this is the thing, basic difference between all the shared preferences, internal storage, external storage, SQLite databases, all this. Okay, so all these we have discussed by last class. So I don't want to again keep on explaining you all this, because only yesterday we have discussed. And one thing I would like to say here, we will depending upon the database adapter. When we deal with the SQL database, we'll depend upon database adapter. Okay, with the help of the base class SQLite open and helper, what we will be deriving the base class, the subclasses. Okay, or will inherit the properties of the SQLite open helper. Based upon that, we will be deriving the database helper, SQLite databases, cursors. Okay, so all this will be used. That we discussed by last class with some simple example. Also, I have explained you. Also, we discussed some of the database packages or methods which are available under each and every title. Okay, like if I would like to say here for database creation, okay, how the database can be created. For that, we have seen the 4 to 5 different methods. Okay, you can adapt it, and then insertion of database, how the new content can be added to the database, fetching of an instruction or fetching of the data from the database, how this can be done, and then what are the other methods that are available for fetching the data, and helper class we have seen. Okay, and also we've seen a simple example. This is only a partial code. It is not a full code. It is only a partial code for the database connectivity part, or the database read and write part, we can say. Okay, it is not the entire code, because we have an XML file as well as other Java code which is pending, which is not shown in this example. I have taken only the database file, database code, and then I'm just displaying it to you here. Okay, so this is the code for that database. And this we discussed yesterday, and also I've shown you some example how to add some data into the database. All this we discussed. Okay, so till that we completed by last class, and by today's class we will be start learning the new title. It is content provider. Okay, the new title is content provider. So here also when we say content provider, it is also much important, or I can say it is a most necessary thing in our Android development. Okay, because since we all depend upon data, okay, so each and every time we don't want to get the same data again and again. So in order to overcome that process, they have introduced a concept called content provider. So whatever data is already available, just be requesting a permission to the already existing application. What we can do, existing application, we can take the basic necessary basic necessary data from the existing application, and then what is needed for your application, you can take the rest of that data from the user point, from the user. Okay, so that we call it as content provider. So regarding that also, we have seen a simple example, or I've seen only one diagram to make you clear what a content provider is, but we are not started. But I have given you an example what exactly a content provider is, and that was explained to you with the help of two diagram by last class. So we'll start our lecture today in this content provider, and what are content providers in Android. So, okay, this is what our level of understanding. So we'll start learning from the basic. So what are the content providers in Android? Okay, this content provider are an important component in an Android. It is one of the component. They handle the access to the central repository and supply data from one application to another on request. Okay, hope you understood what is this. Okay, so based upon the request, okay, we can access our data. Actually it is our data, right? We have stored it in some application, and the same data is needed for the next application also. So what we can do, if you grant the request, okay, if you grant the request from another app, that the app, what it will do, it is going to take the data from the another app also, or the app A or app B, or I can say, or app from first app to second app. You can just copy the already available information from the app 1 to app 2, like that we can say. Okay, so this is what we call it as a basic operation of content provider. So this task of handling is done by methods of content resolver class. Okay, so this handling can be done with the help of a method called content resolver. Okay, resolver class. With the help of this method, I can transfer or send and get and receive request. Okay, and I can transfer the data from one app to another app. Okay, so the content provider can store data in various ways, such as it can be a files, database, or over the internet. Okay, so the data can be of any form, anywhere. So only thing is you need a request response model. If you could send a response, it will. If you could request for the request, it will send you the response once if it is accepted. Okay. So once it is accepted, what you can do? Just you can copy the content whatever you requested from the existing application. That is what. Okay. So many times we need to share our data with application, and that is where it becomes useful. Okay. So we have the diagram. I'll show the diagram how the content provider is working. So let us consider there are two applications. First one is your contact application. So let us take this, your first application is contact, which you have in your phone. That is the phone contact. Okay. And let us take the second one would be the application. Let us consider you are going to install or have installed newly, like WhatsApp or Skype. So one day with the help of this, we can't do anything. Why? Because we are going to exchange data either in terms of a video or in terms of an audio or in terms of a data between one user to another user, or from one person to another person with help of this WhatsApp application or the Skype application. So what we need? We need to know the contact, okay, of a particular person. So if you have a contact application which is already available in your mobile, okay, again you no need to create a new contacts. So what we can do, this WhatsApp or Skype can be given a permission so that they can access your contacts, and in that contacts who are all having the same kind of application, they can they can be invited or they can be communicated from your WhatsApp or Skype. Okay, so this we call it as a content provider. So whatever is required, you provide the content. So upon providing your existing content, okay, upon providing your existing content, the newly installed application will use that or will use your services. Okay, you able to follow what I'm trying to say? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this we call it as a content provider, and also we call it as a data request and a response model. Okay. So first, what we do, the newly installed application or the second application which is installed newly. Okay, the second application which is installed newly will send a data request to the already existing application, and in turn, upon verifying the request, okay, upon verifying the request, what they will do, they provide a response. Okay, they provide a response with the help of the cursor class. Okay, with the help of the cursor class, they will provide you the content. Okay, from app one, they provide the content in the terms of data response model to the with the help of a cursor class. Okay, so if you want to request, you will be using the content resolver class. For data request, you need to use content resolver class. For data response, you need to use cursor class. Okay, so these things you need to remember. Okay, only for programming this will be used, but as of now it is shown in terms of a diagram. And to make it much clear, we have another diagram also. What exactly content provider is? So this is what. Okay, so inside the application one, we have a content provider. Okay, not only in application one, in all the applications we'll have some content provider. So whenever somebody is requesting an application, whenever somebody is requesting some data, with the help of a content provider, we can provide the data. Okay, so this is what. Okay, here in this application one, whenever the data is requested by the application two, so either it may belong to any one of these category. Either if you want to query something, but just to view it. Okay, what is requested. For example, I'm searching for a particular person. In WhatsApp, I search for a particular person. So what I do, I query. I query is nothing but I search with the help of some keyword. For example, Prasad. I just simply type PRAS. So I query it. It will automatically check into the database of WhatsApp contact list as well as the contact list of my phone storage. Okay, it will what happens, it will send a query to the app one. Okay, that query will be searched in my app one also. If it is not available in app two, first it will search in app two. If it is not available in app two, it will go and search in app one. There also, if it is not available, what happens, nothing will be displayed. It means that there is no, that number is not registered in second WhatsApp application. Like that we can conclude. Okay, or sometimes what we do, we refresh our database. So we directly add our contact in our app one. Okay, or what we do, we refresh our contact database, so that is the app to database. So automatically the app one data will get loaded into app two also. So that we call it as update, something like that. Okay, so all these are the some of the methods that can be used. Okay, or if I store it here, this can be updated here. This can be updated here, like that. All these, you know. Okay, what is meant by query? Query is nothing but searching. Insert is nothing but if I have it here, I can insert, or if I have insert, I can use it here. That way, both ways. Since it is both ways, okay, I can use it both ways. Now, insert is not only one way, not only for insert. If it is query both ways, update both ways, delete also both ways. Okay, so that one I said, either from app 2 to app 1 or app 1 to app 2, both is possible. Okay, so now all the necessary data will be available only in your app database. Only in your app database. That can be either in your internal or external, depending upon the type of application. Okay, so that's what it is here. Either it can be a file, or it can be an XML, or it can be a database. It can be of anything. When you say database, it can be of anything. It depends upon the type of data, okay, or the type of application in which you are going to look for the content. Okay, so this is what the further explanation of a content provider. All this we are just learning the basics of content provider. Okay, so just another explanation regarding your content provider. Your content provider manages access to the central repository of the data. Okay, it manages to the central repository of the data. Why? Because the data is the core part. Okay, and it has the access to the central repository of the data. A provider is a part of an Android application which often provides its own UI for working with the data. Okay, and however, content provider are primarily intended to be used by other application which access the provider using the provider client object. Okay, so this is accessed with the help of provider client object. Okay, so this we will discuss when we come to the remaining part. We'll discuss. Okay, and together providers and provider client offers a consistent data, sorry, not data, it is consistent standard interface to the data that handles inter-process communication and secure data access. Okay, and typically you work with content provider in one of the two scenarios. Okay, so this content provider can be used in two scenarios. Okay, so what is the first scenario is you may want to implement the code to access an existing content provider in another application. So the first thing is, or I can say the first type of content provider may be this one. So what is the first type? You want to implement a code to access an existing content provider. It means you are not going to create a content provider newly, but it is already available in another application. If that is the case, how to use that content provider? That is the first case. And second case, if you want to create, okay, if you want to create a content provider in your application to share data with other application, that is your second case. The first thing is either you can use already content provider which is available in the another application. Okay, while you purchase a mobile itself, in that, okay, you may have some pre-installed applications. It may be depending upon your operating system, or it may be of other application also. It can be of other application also. Okay, for example, let us take, to make you clear or make you understand much easily, for the first exam, for the first one, existing content provider is, let us say, whenever you say, the best example would be the dictionary application, we can say. So that is what we are also going to discuss today's class. Existing content provider in another application, we say, right? So whatever we do, wherever we go, if I'm going to open a Word document, or if I'm going to open an messaging application, or if I'm going to open an email application, defaultly you'll have a dictionary. Okay, so that dictionary is already available in installed in one application. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the dictionary as a content provider, and then I'm going to process some information. So that is my first example. Let us consider. Coming to the second, you may want to create a new content provider in your application to share data with other application. Okay, so here in the second case, you can create your own content provider, and upon creating that content provider, you can share the data with other application. So these are the two ways. Okay, so now in our today's class, we will be discussing with the first method. In our today's class, we will first discuss regarding the first method, that is the existing content provider. The existing content provider in your application, and for that I have taken an example as the dictionary, which is already available in your mobile itself. It is a pre-installed one that can be used for a number of applications. Even for messaging, I can use in WhatsApp. I can use the dictionary. For example, I can use Google dictionary, right? So it is, they have predefined their keyword, and they have predefined prediction. Everything is loaded into the dictionary, and while you start typing one or two character itself, they will predict what is our next type of character. Okay, so that is done only with the help of dictionaries. Since they will be matching your first character and second character with the dictionary, and based upon the prediction algorithm, what should be the word that you are looking for, because they are going to read the words of what you typed previously. They are going to read the words which has been typed previously. So based upon that, they will be predicting what should be the next word that you need, that you are looking for, or that you need to be sent. Okay, same way how the Google works now. If you start typing some Google, it will say you message as attachment, but you don't have any attachment in your mail. Shall I send or shall I process something? It will ask some query. If you type a word attachment in your Gmail, and if you don't attach any document in your Gmail, definitely it will ask you. It means they have some prediction algorithm that refers to some dictionary, and then it will ask for you some queries. Okay, like that. All these are some of the already existing content providers. So we'll take dictionary as a best example to make you understand the first one. And for the second one, it can be in any application, like user wishes. Okay, user wishes to any application. We can design any one application, and then we'll discuss the second example. Okay, to start with, we'll move on to the first one. Okay, and this is also just example of a content provider in terms of an application point of view, user application point of view. What the user will do, user will initially search for a query. Okay, so when you search it, what happens? With the help of a centralized repository, I call it as a content provider. Centralized repository, a content provider, what you do, you can collect the data. Okay, you can collect the data. The data it can be stored anywhere, either in the database or in the file, or it can be an SQLite, or okay, SQLite database, or it can be an internet also. It can be anything, anywhere. It can be stored anywhere. Okay, based upon your search, it will retrieve you back the content which is based upon your query or based upon your search. Okay, so and your data can be of contact lists. It can be of images or videos or local searches, or searches in Google via internet. Okay, somebody might have used that Google Voice or Google that chatbot. All these you might have used. Okay, so all these are some of the examples for content providers. So you might also use the Google application. If I long press the home key, it will automatically pop up your Google. Uh, that is a Google. That is assistant will get automatically popped up. It will ask for what you are looking for. Okay, like that, it will ask for some help. Right? All these are some of the inbuilt content providers. Based upon your query, it will search either in the internet or into your local database, and then it will send back you the request. So that we call it as content providers. Okay. Okay, again the same thing. So based upon this example, based upon this example, this content was given. So I'm skipping all this, and this is also again a basic introduction for content provider. So in order to perform a content provider, we need to follow the CURD operations. Okay, CRU CURD operations. So the content providers will provide the following 4 basic operations. So these are known as the CRUD operations, where C represents the create, R represents the read, U represents update, and D represents delete. Okay, so the above are the 4 operations of content provider. And when you come to create, it is used for creation of a data in content provider, and read is for read the stored data in a content provider. Update is nothing but let's editing in existing data in your content provider, and delete existing data can be deleted. Okay, so these are the CRU code operations, we can say. So create, read, update, and delete. All these are some of the operations which is which we call it as a basic operation of our content providers. Okay, and there are many examples I can say for content providers. Some examples to make you understand. I have shown you some example like WhatsApp, contacts, Skype. I shown you. Even though I shown some example. Apart from that, I have included some other examples also. So the gallery that contain images. The gallery that contain images is the one example I can show for content provider. So contact lists that contain contact details. It's a content provider. So it provides you the contacts. The first case, gallery provides you the images, and a dictionary that has a collection of words that are used. I said you right, prediction. Based upon your prediction, it will predict how many times the words are used repeatedly. Okay, based upon that, it will itself will recognize the word which you are going to use next. Okay, so a dictionary has a collection of words that you have used, how many times you have used, which is most frequently used. Like that, it will categorize the words that you used in the dictionary. Okay, the music playlist has a list of songs. Okay, it is one of the content provider. The music playlist has a list of songs is the one content provider, and the call logs contain the call details. The call logs contain the call details. There's the another set of content providers. Okay, not only the contacts which we discussed is one content provider, not only the dictionary is a content provider. There many examples we can say. I have listed out 5 examples here. One is which is related to images, which is related to contact, which is related to dictionary, which is related to musics, and which is related to call logs. All these are some of the examples which I would like to say for the Android content providers. Okay, and to understand how the content provider works, we'll consider the following diagram. Okay, and this diagram is the interaction between a content provider and the storage. Okay, and the classes and the storage. The methods of content provider in Android. Okay, these are the methods of content provider in Android. So let us see the following methods of the content providers: on create, query, insert, update, delete, and get type. All these are the some of the types of content provider which is available, and most probably we will be using this in the second type: on create, query, insert, update, delete, or get type. All these we will be using. That is the on we are discussing right. On create, query, insert, update, delete, get type. All this we will be using in our second type. When I say second type, in this type I'm saying it in the second. Okay, we have discussed the second type, right? When you want to create a new content provider in your application, in that type we'll be using all this. Whatever I'm showing now, we'll be using all this in the second type when you are going to create a new content provider in your application. Okay, during that time we'll be using all these functionalities. Okay, so initially what happens, from an activity or a fragment, you will be requesting something that will be communicated using the cursor loader. Okay, that will be communicating with the help of cursor loader. So you know what cursor loader is or a cursor is. We have seen that in the previous diagram itself. So hope you remember that one. See here, with the help of cursor, I said you right. With the help of cursor only, this is an activity. Okay, you will have an activity. That activity will be done with the help of cursor as well as content resolver. Okay, so that is what it has been shown there. Okay, cursor and then content resolver, and then it is moved to the content provider. It is moved to the content provider, and content provider will look into the database. As I said to you that the database can be in images, audio, video, text, data, or the files, whatever it can be. And then it will be replying you the back. It will be reply back, okay, from the data storage. It will reply back to the activity again. Okay, so this is how the content happens. So that is done with the help of from the activity it comes to the cursor loader. From the cursor loader it comes to the content resolver. From then it moves to the content provider, and the content provider in turn searches in the database, and then it replies you the back. Okay. So till this, whatever we discussed is the example, not example. It is the basic introduction for content provider. Okay, it is a basic introduction for content provider for both cases. It is I have not only given introduction for one case. For both the cases, I have given you the introduction. Okay, shall we proceed with the example for the first case now? Till now, we discussed regarding the content provider, and for both cases, I have introduced or I have given some basic introduction. Okay, when we have an existing content provider, how it will works. When we are going to create a new content provider, how it is going to work. So that is what the basic introduction about the content provider. And now we are going to start learning the example for an existing content provider in an application. Shall we proceed?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here I have taken a table. Okay, the table is nothing but a sample user dictionary table. Okay, it is a sample user dictionary table where you could see in the right hand side in table one, each row represents an instant of a word that might not be found in a standard dictionary. Okay, it is the word which is not available in the standard dictionary, and each column represents, okay, each column represents some data for the word, such as a local in which it was first encountered. Okay, I think somebody can mute themselves, I think. Okay, so for this provider, the ID column serves as the primary key. Primary key is nothing but how you say roll number. Even though you have a number, okay, you can differentiate with the help of your date of birth. You can differentiate with the help of your father's name, mother's name, your place. Okay, you can differentiate your identity with the help of many identity. But we also primarily use a particular key, okay, to uniquely identify a person, so that we call it as ID. Okay, in our regular practice we call it as a register number or a roll number or a serial number. We give different names, right? Same way, for a table we need to have a primary key that is for a unique representation or identification of a particular element in a particular database. Okay, that we call it as primary key. It is a unique representation. There are many ways to uniquely identify, but still we follow a new method, right? So same way we call here in our database as the primary key. Okay, this is how you need to relate the primary key with your real-time example. As I said, you like if a person has a unique date of birth, even though if the date of birth is same, you may have different father name, obviously different father name, different mother name, different birthplace, different language. So something like that, I can keep on classifying different school or something like that. I can keep on going, even though we have many things different, but we still follow a common universally unique ID, right? The same way, for a table, if you want to uniquely identify a particular record, okay, particular record in a table, we need to have a unique key. That unique key is named as a primary key, which is essentially needed in a database. Okay, so with the help of this we are going to start. Okay, so one of the built-in providers in the Android platform is the user dictionary, which stores the spellings of a non-standard words that the user wants to keep. Okay, all these are the non-standard words, okay, which is not already available in the dictionary, which is not already available in the dictionary. Okay, and from the applicant ID. What is their ID and how many times they have used, the frequency, how many times they used, and in which location, in which dictionary it has been used. Okay, US dictionary, French, Canadian dictionary, Brazilian, UK, what dictionary used, and what is that ID, and what is that ID. Okay, so this is the table. From this table, how the content provider is going to work, that is what we are going to discuss. Okay, so to get a list of words and their locals from a user dictionary provider, you call a content resolver query. Okay, content resolver dot query. So query is something about searching. Okay, so a query method calls a content provider dot query method defined by the user dictionary provider. A query method calls the content provider dot query method defined by the user dictionary provider. Okay, the following lines of code shows the a content resolver dot query call, how a query can be called in a program. Okay, so this is how the query can be called using the query method. Okay, so the query is the user dictionary and return the results. Whatever you query it, right? You query something. For that query, how the result is been displayed you back. For that, what is the program that you are going to write? Okay, cursor is equal to get content resolver of dot query in bracket user dictionary dot words dot content underscore URI. okay, comma, okay, that content where you could see that user dictionary dot words dot content underscore URI is nothing but, okay, the content URI of the word table. Okay, this is nothing but the content URI of the word table from this word table, content URI of the word table. Okay. The next one is the projection. This is nothing but the columns to return for each row. This is nothing but, so this is nothing but the columns to return for each row, and the selection clause. It is nothing but selection criteria. Okay, again, this is all, this is selection criteria. If you want, you can give it here selection clause and selection argument and the sort order. If you want, you can give while programming, or simply you can make all these parameters as null. And just by giving the user dictionary content URI alone, just you can give this, and all the others you can make it as null. No problem. If you want, you can give all this. If you know, or if it is required, you can give all this. Otherwise, simply you can make it as null. Okay, just put comma and then you can put null, 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 null. That's it. Over. Okay, this is the way you need to define a get content resolver. Okay, get content resolver dot query. This is the way how we need to use. There is a syntax for using the get content resolver dot query. And the content URI. Okay, a content URI is a URI that identifies the data in a provider. That identifies a data in a provider. Okay, so the content URI include a symbolic name of the entire provider, that is its authority, and the name that the table, okay, that points to the table. So one is the symbolic name, that is the for the entire provider, and then second one is the name. Okay, and when you call a client method to access the table in a provider, the content URI of the table is one of the arguments. Okay, so where you could see in the syntax or in the example. So what is the example we consider? To retrieve a row whose ID is 4. Okay, we are going to retrieve a row whose ID is 4 in the table. Okay, here in this table whose ID is 4. Okay, my ID, whose ID value is 4. Okay, from the user dictionary, you can use this content URI. If I want to retrieve, if I want to know the content of the ID, that is the row number 4 or ID number 4. So URI is the class and the single URI is the object. Content URIs dot with append ID user dictionary dot words at content underscore URI comma 4. So this is nothing but the table. This is nothing but the words table, and 4 is nothing but the ID. Okay, from that table, which ID has to be retrieved you back. So that is what the basic syntax for content URI. Okay, and retrieving data from the provider. And if you want to retrieve the data from a provider, so what we need to do? So to retrieve the data from the provider, we need to follow this basic step. First one, request the read access permission for the provider. First one, what we need to do? We need to request for read access permission. You know what is meant by read access permission? Query is nothing but read access permission. Just querying. First one. Second one, define the code that sends a query for the provider. Define the code that sends the query to the provider. Okay, these are the two things that we need to do. First one, we need a request. After that, we need to define the query for the provider. Okay. Basically, we need to do this. If I want, I can also give the write. I can also query for write permission also. Read and write can be accessed. When I say hey, read permission for the provider, it is not only always read. I can also request for write permission also. Okay, read and write both can be requested. And content provider permissions. When I say the content provider permission, okay, so retrieving the data is only read. It is not write. Okay, here we don't have write. Why? Because our title is retrieving the data from the provider. When I say retrieving the data, we always deal with read only. Okay, we don't deal with write permission. So sorry, here we don't have write here because we are going to only retrieve. Okay, and in the next title, content provider permissions. Here we can read as well as write, both can be done here. Okay, the user dictionary provider requires the android.permission.read user dictionary permission to retrieve data from it. Okay, if I want to retrieve the data, you will be using the read user dictionary. And okay, the provider has a separate android.permission.write write user permission also. If you want, you can also use write user permission, or I can use read user permission. It is according to you. For example, if I'm going to use a write user permission dictionary, what can be done is I can insert, I can update, I can delete. Anything you want, I can do it. If I want to insert something into the table or into the database, that is done. Updation can be done. Deletion can also be done when I'm going to use write. If I'm going to use read, I can only read the table. I shown you a table at the first page, right? I can read only the content in the table. I can't do anything else apart from the particular table. Okay, so that is what read permission and then write permission. Okay, and here is a simple example for you to show insert, update, and delete. Insert, update, and delete. So if I want to insert something, I'll be using get content resolver of insert. Get, okay, get content resolver dot insert, and then the dictionary, and then the URI, and then the values. All these I'll be used. Okay, what is the new values that is to be inserted? All this will be accepted as the argument, and then that will be updated into the database. Okay, that has to be updated into the database. So the dictionary and then the URI setting, but in which where I am going to insert. I am going to insert at the first, or insert at the middle somewhere, or insert at the last, wherever it is. Okay, I need to give the exact location. You may insert anywhere, right? When you're working in Excel, you may insert at the last where you continued previously. You may be working at 100th cell. You may work now. If you want to add something new, you may work with 101 now. Or you may try to include into the 10th location. What you do? You insert that into 10th location, so that a URI has to be given, and according to the URI, the new values will be appended into the database. Okay, so this is what the syntax for insert. And updating the data. For updating the data, again, get content resolver dot update. Okay, so here also we are going to use the dictionary name, URI, and then the update values, and then some additional classes, selection class and selection argument. The update values, the column to be update, which column you are going to update, and the column to select on, and then the value to compare. All these will be all these will be given as the additional inputs. Okay, so this will help you to update the content into your database. Deleting the data. Okay, again we will use the get content resolver dot delete. All this we are using the resources which is already available. Okay, which are available already available. The content provider which is already available. Into that, if I want to do some modifications or read or write whatever I want to do, how that can be done. So that is what we are discussing now. Okay, already existing content provider, predefined, pre-installed applications. Okay. If I'm going to delete, I will be using get the content resolver dot delete, and the dictionary and its URI, and then which column, and then which value you are going to delete. All these will be given as the input argument for deleting the data. Okay, so as of now we've seen update, read, delete. All these we have discussed under the content. There is under this content URIs. Okay. And next comes the provider database. Next comes the provider data type, not database, it is data types. So the content provider can offer many different data types. Okay, content provider can offer you many different data types. The user dictionary provider offers only text, but the provider can also offer the following format. Okay, so make sure that the user dictionary provider offers only text, but the providers can also offer the following different formats also. Either it can be they may supply, okay, you can use integer, a long integer, floating point integer, floating point numbers, a long floating point, or also you can use the binary large object. Binary large object is another type of data type which is also made available in Android. Binary large object. Okay, so it can be the maximum size is 64k 64k byte array. Okay, so it is a binary long object is another data type. So apart from string character, okay, string character or general, more general. Okay, so that is what it is say that it is text. We say it is text. When I say text, it is understood that it is string It is characters, all this. Apart from that, you can also use integer, long integer, floating point, a long floating point, and then a binary large object. All these can be used for used by the providers. Okay. So until this is the example for an existing. Okay, this is an example for an existing content usage of content provider. Okay, I will stop here, and this I will start the next class. User content provider, how to create a new content provider in your application and share it with other applications. So this we'll discuss by next class. Okay, I will share with that the previous case, and this case will start by next class. Okay, any doubt in this so far? Any doubt what is content provider and how a content provider can be used? What are the ways content provider can be used? Is there any doubts?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. So if we have no doubts, I think that we can wind up our class, and I request you all to enter your register number for attendance. Okay, and the second type we'll discuss by next class. Okay, and as already said you, and small information, if the data is been stored in some other Google Drive, you kindly share it to others, or that is give the permission as commenter so that all others can download also. Okay, thank you. Those who are given attendance can leave.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.